Of course, we are worrying about human activities and solutions, global change science for solutions in the context of these human impacts, right? So very early on, there was the idea of the IPAT model to quantify human impacts on the environment, and it was considered as a function of population affluence. You can think of it as per capita GDP, for example, which is directly related to consumption, which is directly related to emissions per person, and so on, and technology, which can accelerate the use of energy, like all the electronics, the travel, flying around, and so on. So the impact in that case is seen as a product of population affluence and technology. Population has been used as a flag to say population is causing all these problems, but there are many articles like this from National Geographic which look at the impact of technology, population, and affluence, and try to argue that if you look at per capita consumption, then the top 10% are emitting almost 50% of the greenhouse gases associated with luxury consumptions. And even in a place like India, where the per capita emission is around 3 tons per person per year, the rich are emitting 8, 10, 12 tons per year, where the poor are much below 2. Of course. So population is decreasing because with education of women, fertility rates have been dropping, but unfortunately that fewer kids actually end up being given more resources for their well-being, which ends up in higher consumption and higher impact. So we have to be careful about that. There is a similar a model for estimating CO2 emissions called Kaya identity. Maybe it's called Kaya identity, I don't know. Population times consumption intensity, so goods consumed per capita, times energy intensity times carbon intensity. So energy intensity is basically the energy input per unit of goods you use, whether it's water, bottled water, coffee, iPhone, whatever, right? And carbon intensity is CO2 output per unit energy. Okay, then there are details in this as well. So how do you count? I'm sitting here, I have an iPhone which was produced elsewhere, so the emission associated with the iPhone was elsewhere, but the energy I'm using to run the iPhone is here. So these are also kind of something we have to worry about, but at least it gives you a sense that reducing consumption intensity and energy intensity and carbon intensity can be global problems in the long run anyways. This is one figure from the book on how things have evolved. This is going back to Industrial Revolution, looking at population. So there is the population explosion there, but the so-called population bomb in terms of starvation didn't quite materialize because world GDP index has also increased during the same time, with 1960 being 1. So this is a relative scale. Fraction of cropland has increased. Number of large dams has increased for electricity production and other agricultural uses. Fisheries being exploited, and many of them now are beyond sustainable fishing levels. So that is something that also is related to increasing GDP, especially in developing countries where higher income comes with higher demand for meat and fish, for example. A better image can also show other details. Well, not better, but more details. This is the scale of global anthropogenic impact this is talking about human perturbation of marine ecosystems. Various levels of impacts are shown. I won't go into the details. Many assumptions go into these. Very low impacts, in fact they coincide with the harsh weather down here in the Southern Ocean and the Arctic, or they are in the low productivity regions like the subtropical gyres. So there is not much fish there at the surface. Anyway, these are like the deserts of the ocean. Okay, so you can see there are some regions where the exploitation and the perturbations are really, really high, and that's bad news for many of the corals and so on. Okay, and this is the human impact on the land environment, and this is modeled using something called GloBio. So it's a model, and you have to be careful, of course, on what it means. So impacts on various ecosystems like tundra, salt deserts, wetlands, boreal and high latitude forests, water use, water exploitation, and so on. And this can probably put a better sense to it. This is a compilation of all the evidence that IPCC could collect to look at all the continents in these sectors, let's say physical systems, glaciers, snow, rivers, lakes, and so on, coastal erosion, biological systems, and human and managed systems like food production, livelihoods, etc., with various levels of confidence going from very low to very high. The main point I would make is that all these systems are affected in all regions of the world, including small islands, polar regions, and all continents. And the confidence level varies, but it's very clear that we have basically had a big footprint on all sectors, all continents across the world. Okay, so in this context, that we have to start thinking about Earth system science as not just a natural system as implied by Brotherton diagram, but put human agency and human dimension into the Earth system. So these are the various entities involved in various aspects of the climate change. This is in mitigation in agriculture, and this is more broader issues under UNDP, World Wildlife Fund, and so on and so forth. So I will stop this here and come to talk about the perceptions of Earth system science and climate impacts by different disciplines of science. We will see that this is an issue because natural scientists tend to focus in their siloed view, and social scientists tend to focus in their tunnel vision. So how to cut across the silos and produce reliable projections for mitigation and adaptation. That's the running theme through the course.